I made a video a while back on Skins, and it's been a popular video which gets consistent comments, so I simply cannot resist making a follow-up about the American version of it, the show, and the controversy surrounding it. This is just another example to me of how the United States of America has cornered the market on moral panic. No one does moral panic better than the United States of America. I think the first time I personally experienced this was when I was about 13 or 14 and Marilyn Manson came around. Now, of course, I heard all the absurd rumors about Marilyn Manson, how he had ribs removed, how he killed puppies, blah 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 blah. A lot of it had to do with the lies that had already previously been spread about rock and roll in the 70s and 80s. A lot of things like the Satanic Panic was big in the 80s as well, even though the FBI investigated and found no evidence of that any of these sort of satanic rituals were going on, and that in fact it was a lot to do with the power of suggestion and the hypnotherapy movement. It still led to this, widespread cults throughout America, blah 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 blah. And Marilyn Manson was one of those people who was able to tap into those fears of Americans, and you see that the reaction and the moral panic to him was vastly out of scale with what he actually was doing and actually had to say. And the irony is one of those words I never know if I'm using correctly, but the irony was that what he was actually talking about was about their own fear and irrationality, and he became what they feared. And what perhaps you could say is one of the greatest acts of performance art of the 90s, in a sense, and he's much smarter than people give him credit for. But I say this because the new moral panic of the moment, and I think we've reached a point in our society where we only have the attention span of, a week at most, so I'm sure this will blow over in a week anyway, was that the American version of Skins is being called out as child pornography. I was watching this in a hotel room in California. Normally I don't even watch the news anymore, but it was just interesting to see that we live in a society where we pay people millions of dollars to scream and be hysterical in front of a camera. I mean, that really says something about our society. But the thing with Skins is that I actually tried calling in to HLN because as they're doing this thing, is this child pornography? Oh, they have teenage actors, blah 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 blah. I couldn't help but think, well, this show already aired in England years ago. The pilot episode, from what I can tell, I hadn't seen it at the time, and at the making of this video I still haven't seen it, so I can't say with 100% certainty, was more or less a shot-for-shot, word-for-word, nearly remake of the British pilot episode of the show, and nobody cared in England from what I can tell. Maybe a few people got upset, but it wasn't national news and, oh, Taco Bell's pulling their advertisements. Moral panic, I can't find anything but hysterical. It's just how irrational our society is, and how it works itself up over nothing. They kept mentioning the fact that there were 14-year-old actors in the show, actors under the age of 18, but they didn't cite one specific instance of actual child pornography or some child being shown in a sexual act or naked or anything like that. They didn't actually cite that. Having seen the British episode of the pilot, there was plenty of references to sex and drugs, and there was a flash of nudity from the neighbor woman across the street, but that was a middle-aged woman in that show, probably completely removed from the American version because it's on MTV and not E4. But they wouldn't have put anything raunchier than what was already in the British version, I would imagine, given the way American television works. And so I can say with pretty much a high degree of certainty that this is much to do about nothing. But I'm always amused and unsettled whenever I see this kind of ridiculous pandemonium in society. Oh my God, we have to get the government involved and blah 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 blah. Really, I mean, there are far more important things going on in the world, as the Amazing Atheist already pointed out.